Hey everyone. This is going to be a bit of a different video than the stuff I usually put out, or at least the stuff I put out lately, but I want to quickly go over how I've been training lately, specifically at this map, Labyrinth of Suffering Interior 5. It took me a while. I had to do a lot of testing to figure out what map felt the best for me with Arc. I was a little worried that I wouldn't like any of the Labyrinth maps, even though they all have such high base EXP. But I actually do really like Interior 5. I think it flows really well if you do a specific rotation that I'm going to go over in this video. So I'm actually going to I'm going to make this video about the length of what I call 2 cycles. And a cycle is basically the duration that it takes for a Bissell Recall to come off cooldown. So I usually start with a Bissell Recall because it's a full map attack. It hits most of the map if you stand right about here. And then from there I start doing my rotation. And then at the end of 3 minutes, or 200 seconds I guess, when this thing comes back, I cast it again in the center and I start the cycle over. So the first time through I'm going to try and like explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And then the second time through I'm just going to like do it how I normally would when I'm training, so you can see how it looks, or how it's supposed to look basically. So let me start off. I'm going to use a green pot. You don't have to use a green pot, it just makes it a little bit faster obviously, and it feels a little bit more fluid to me. And then I actually have the wrong skill here. Get rid of that and throw HS. There we go. Put that on the key. And then I need to make sure I have this set to 6. Okay, so I'm going to buff up, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. I only actually cast those 4 decents, Sharp Eyes, Speed Infusion, HS, and the loaded dice set to 6 for the extra EXP. I don't use combat orders or anything like that because I don't really need it for my damage. But I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Oh, actually, before I do, let me turn this back on. It's a nice reminder. Alright, so you start off with the Bissell Recall, which puts you into Specter mode, obviously. And so I basically have 2 different paths that I take around the map. One for Specter mode and one for Flora mode. So this is the Specter mode path. You can see I'm kind of just going around as best I can. I'm going to cast Lucid here. So basically I start from down here, I flash jump across and I use the basic attack. Once I get to about here, I want to jump and use the claw, so I end up here. And then I take the diagonal dashes, the straight forward dash, and then the, whatever you call this thing, insatiable hunger, to end it off. So you can see I'm just going across, and then I come up like this. And then I usually try to use the spider web thing over here, since I have my soul on the left there. And then I take the diagonal dashes up and down, I dash straight forward, and I use hunger to land here. I like having the Lucid Summon here because it hits almost all of these platforms in the top left, so it's pretty good for coverage when I'm doing the rotation. So I just do this until I run out of Specter meter, basically. I just keep going around. I cast Lucid whenever I have it and I land on that platform. I don't usually like stop and go up to this platform as soon as it comes back, because I think that's kind of like, it interrupts the flow basically. And then occasionally I'll just use this skill, the Creeping Terror, whenever it's off cooldown. Alright, now we're in Flora mode. So let me get back to the starting point here. So if we're starting from here in Flora mode, I want to cast Endless Nightmare right about here. And I typically want to do that whenever the 5th job skill comes back. So this one, the I forget the name of it, Devious Nightmare. I want to use Devious Nightmare right about here because that's going to hit all of these platforms like that. And then I come over, I just attack that, and then down here it's a little bit more complex than the other one. So I'm going to start with an Abyssal Charge Drive as I flash jump, and then I usually use Scarlet Drive right about here. And then I've waited too long, so Devious is back, but normally I would then flash jump and use normal Nightmare, and then keep flash jumping and use basic Charge Drive. And then when I get here, I want to come up like this, and then down with the the gust drive. So I do the regular diagonal dashes up, and then I do gust drive here. And once you're here, I just flash jump over to get back to this platform with Scarlet Drive, and then I use Devious Nightmare again. So now that I've explained all that, I'll try to go a little bit quicker so you can kind of see what it looks like that. And if you do everything correctly, then the cooldowns basically just come up as soon as you need them. Like Devious Nightmare comes up right about when I get back here. Bissell Charge comes back right when I'm about here. So it just flows really well. I'm not really waiting for cooldowns or having to change my path, basically. So that's basically it. One thing I forgot to mention, I do use the bind, the Blissful Restraint, right after I use a Bissell Recall. I like to set it over here so that it covers about the same area as the Lucid Soul, and then once it's done, I'll summon the Lucid Soul again so that it can start taking over. So now I'm just going to do the rotations as I normally would while I train, so you get an idea of what it looks like without me having to explain it constantly. So I start off with a Bissell Recall, then I'm going to go over and use the bind on the left as soon as it's done. And then we're just going to start doing the rotation. I don't really worry so much about when the Devious Nightmare is going to be up in Specter mode, because Specter mode has pretty good coverage without it. So I'm not too concerned about timing that cooldown. It usually ends up being like right about here, just because of the way I do the rotation, but it doesn't really matter where you use it. Also, like you saw there, sometimes combo orbs can kind of mess up the flow, because if you hit a combo orb when you need to chain a skill, it's going to interrupt it, basically, unless you mash really fast. So sometimes that'll happen where I'm coming down with a dash or something and I hit a combo orb right there and I just fall. It's kind of annoying, but luckily right now with the Choco event, after you get past, I think it's 2k combos, they just stop spawning because Nexon forgot to code the chocolate orbs for tier 4. So once you get into where you should normally be getting tier 4 combo orbs, you just don't get any at all, which is kind of nice because dodging combo orbs can be pretty annoying. Right now I'm getting fairly lucky though, they're kind of just spawning out of the way, except for that one. Alright, so now we're going to do the Flora Mode, and sometimes I have to like readjust how fast I'm going with Flora Mode in case, like right there, I used Nightmare before Devious was back, so I'm just going to wait a second, cast the Devious so I can get into my normal flow state basically, and then just resume from there. The hardest part of this rotation is probably catching that flash jump at the top, because if you're too far to the right, you'll land on that tiny little platform there, which kind of cuts your momentum a little bit. So you want to do your best to not land on that. It's not a huge deal if you do, but it just goes a lot more smoothly in my opinion if you manage to dodge it most of the time and just go right between the crack right there. But yeah, this is actually, I really enjoy this rotation because I don't have to worry about like cooldowns coming up, or when can I use this skill, when can I use that skill, or having to have like multiple different rotations for each form based on which cooldowns are up at which time. Like when I trained at MTS2 in Specter mode, I would not have the claw at the same time every rotation, so I had to have like 2 different rotations in Specter mode to get around the map. It was just kind of annoying. Oh, I went too far left there, so we'll just flash jump up and continue. But yeah, this is basically how I've been training. It's actually pretty good EXP. After I hit 252, I started getting about 100 bill an hour. I think the best I've gotten so far was 105 bill. And that was with a lot of buffs, obviously. I'm not using all those buffs right now. But I'll leave a like detailed description down below the video so that you can see like basically the progression that I was getting and what buffs I was using. And hopefully this video helps you understand how to train better at Labyrinth as an ARC. I may at some point do other maps like CLP or MTS2 because those are the maps that I trained to 250 at. I think CLP is pretty straightforward. MTS2 has a bit of a rotation to it, but it's not that complicated. So if there's interest in that stuff, I might go ahead and make videos about those. Maps earlier than that, I don't really have a solid idea of rotations. And honestly, I'm not sure that CLP is even the best map for Arc at Arcana. There's probably better ones, but I never bothered to look for them because I got to Esfera pretty quickly. So that's about it for this video, though. Hopefully that was enlightening. I do think that the normal Lucid Soul is very helpful, having it up there. As long as you can one-hit kill these mobs, that does a lot to clear out that side of the map while you go over here and you do the rest of your rotation. That definitely helps the EXP rates a lot. And actually, I had to make like a whole new training knuckle basically just so that I could have that soul because I didn't want to replace the one on my main knuckle. So I just made like an Absolab and slap this on it. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.